any aha moments that came out of sessions this morning or this afternoon?
I actually really like the project funeral idea
Right.
that you brought up there, because I do think that sometimes when we swing and when we miss,
Right.
or for whatever reason, you know, a project doesn't work, sometimes I think that does kill growth and innovation, right? Because we all tend to then sit back and think, maybe
better not do that again.
Yeah.
Right.
Let's not
we
try
get
that
gun
again.
shy.
Lesson learned, exactly.
Right.
Instead, taking a minute to really process like what worked, why it maybe didn't work this time, and what we can take from that to the next one. I thought that was a great idea.
One of the speakers talked about project funerals, really, you know, normalizing human failure, taking that back to the company and the team, and really running with that. I think that was a very powerful message.
The biggest takeaway.
The biggest takeaways. Well, I would say the first biggest takeaway, it's not really a takeaway, but just show up. Because, you know, Benno, I didn't come into this industry with much knowledge, and I would say a lot of what I've learned is from this event particularly. The networking is amazing. That's a huge takeaway. They have amazing guest speakers. One of them talked about having a funeral for all of our
everybody remembers that. Love that. Everybody's talking about the project funeral. That is like it feels like a liberating thing for everybody, right?
Yeah, like sometimes we just beat ourselves up. And so that was a big takeaway for me. And then there was a networking about reps and what reps need, and there was some really eye-opening moments in that one as well. So there's always good stuff. I try to leave a conference with 3 things I'm going to go and do immediately, and then 3 things I want to do in the next 6 months, and then 3 things that are a little bit more long-term. So I actually have about 20 things on my list right now, so I have to weed it down before.
Well, that's good. You know, it's always better to have more than too many than not enough.
If I had to pick one session that I probably got the most nuggets from, it's probably Jonathan's.
Everybody talked about the project funeral.
Yes.
And why was that so, like all of us, that's the one word, maybe it was the shock value of the word funeral?
Maybe, but I think, I think it's human nature for us to kind of hold on to things that didn't work, maybe thinking something will, click and maybe we can make it work down the road. But I think the idea of actually having that funeral, putting it to bed, putting it to rest, and kind of getting it off your shoulders is, there's some freedom in that. And I think everyone kind of went,
that's what I need. We need to have a funeral.
Yeah. I agree.
I really just think the open-mindedness to evaluating their businesses, hearing from the businesses, and kind of addressing their problems head on, and not being set in their ways with how they've done things historically. Like I was sitting in on the nearshoring conference, and it was just really encouraging how many hands are getting raised to look at alternatives to what they're doing now, even if it's a level of uncomfort or unknown.
That to me was a big aha moment of this conference, that as an industry we're getting better.
I would say yes, and I think GHTA has been foundational to that. I think the industry it's always been fragmented. We would still say it's a fragmented industry in many ways, but having an opportunity to have the vendor partners and the agency partners in one room with one conversation, I think that does bridge the gap. I think that's what we call the session, bridges the gap. Doesn't mean that it all goes away. Are there some tension points? Hopefully it's healthy tension.
It is right.
I think the biggest takeaway for me right now is that there is some tension in the industry, and I don't think that's a bad thing. I think that the fact that we're talking about it and we're acknowledging it's healthy tension. There's going to be some healthy conversation about this. And I think that what we really need to do in this particular situation is stop and listen. There's someone here who talked about being an expert listener, and accepting that someone else feels differently than we do doesn't necessarily mean that we agree with them, but to give them the respect of accepting that that's their experience and that's what they're going through. I think we'll start bridging that gap.
The biggest aha moment, I think, happened when our industry, which are members of GHTA, are both reps and vendors, got together in a room and talked about elephants in the room that are sticking points that they're trying to solve together. It was beautiful.
And we didn't kill each other.
We didn't kill each other.
It was tension, but healthy tension.
Yes, it was healthy tension. We talked about product development. We talked about commission rates. We talked about shows. We talked about online. We talked about in person and the cost of everything and sort of taking away friction. the one thing that binds everybody together, and that's retailer, serving the retailer.
Right.
It's amazing.